All right, folks. These are the Scarpa Zodiac LT GTX. This is a lighter three-season crampon-compatible hiking climbing boot. I would say weight-wise, they're probably on par with La Sportiva Aqualibriums. Maybe they come in a tad lighter than the Aqualibriums. I'll check that and post it in a moment. I've had these for a couple of days now, so I've got some first impressions. To start off with, I bought these boots to replace a pair of boots that I had had for several years and liked quite a bit. Those were the Loa Alpine SLs. It was super light and stiff hiking boots, but I had a foot injury that made the Loas no longer comfortable for me, and I needed a little more room in the toe area. So after doing quite a bit of Googling, Scarpa was a boot maker that came up frequently for having wider volume in the toe boxes of their boots compared to others. So I figured I'd give these a try. Had them for a couple of days, worn them on a couple of quick outings just to get the feel for them. First impressions are they're a very nice looking boot. Subtle coloring, just little flashes of color here and there, nothing too bright or fancy. Really like that. My taste in boots kind of, ebbs and flows over the years. Sometimes I'm in the mood for flashy. Sometimes I'm in the mood for subtle. And I'm really liking the look of these boots. Just kind of basic colors with little flashes, not huge logos or anything like that. Pretty happy with them. Materials-wise, they've got like a synthetic fabric here. Seems like it's very durable, very abrasion resistant. Time will tell on that. And then a rubber ram that goes around the boot. A little bit of perforation there that shows some color through, which is kind of a nice flash touch. The laces, a couple of things stand out. One is there's this diagonal lace that goes across the very front of the foot. I tried this on the Mammut Tice. And really didn't like the way that it tightened the boot on my foot. It made it somewhat uncomfortable, but on these Scarpas, that diagonal lace has no downside to it. It tightens comfortably. It feels fine. So I don't know why there's a difference between the Mammut Tice and this one and how that diagonal lace affects my foot, but nevertheless feels pretty good on these. The boot seems very well made. It's got a good amount of cushion. I wouldn't say that they feel plush, soft, or anything like that. I think that they are keeping the weight down by, not going overabundant on padding, cushioning, insulation, things like that. But for what I'm looking for in a kind of a summertime boot that's going to be a good choice for things like El Dorado or Sahale, things like that in the North Cascades, nothing too crazy. This is a good boot. You could easily wear this on the approach and then throw some crampons on it. There is a heel welt here for a semi-automatic crampon, no toe welt, so you've got to use a basket style in the front for crampons on these. Other thing that I like is on the heel cuff here is a little bit of rubberization, which kind of grips it against your sock or against your the back of your leg. It's seems like it's gonna do a good job of keeping debris out of the back of your boot. It just feels kind of comfortable. Other things that I have noticed that I don't like when I first tried this boot. Right out of the box, put it on, it felt super comfortable. I was very happy with the amount of room there was in the front of the boot. But a couple of things, having worn it, are coming to mind as potential downsides. So first thing is the tongue here. You can see that the way that the tongue is shaped, when it's tucked in here or whatever, it kind of creates a pressure point against your ankle, having that kind of pointed tongue material there. The other thing I notice about this tongue when I'm wearing the boot is it tends to move around more than other boots that I've had. So it'll slide to the side a little bit, or it'll slide down, or it'll bunch up. So I kind of find that I'm frequently reaching down and pulling and straightening out my tongue. Usually boots will adjust to my feet, and like things like that will be less noticeable. But this boot, I'm noticing it more so than ever. The other thing is there's something about the design of the boot. It could be the ankle height. It could be where this outer material here, the way it's cut. But to cinch it down and get it so it feels snug against my ankles, the laces I start to feel through the padding. And so it creates kind of pressure points against the front of my foot. It's not so significant that it's a deal breaker for me. But it has resulted in me trying to loosen up the laces a little bit to avoid those pressure points. I haven't had to loosen up the laces so much that there's a lot of slop around the ankle of the boot, but it is something that I've noticed more so than other boots. Other thing about these boots that I don't like are the laces. The laces are relatively thin. This guy here, the lace lock one, does kind of a mediocre job of holding that lace in place. I would always prefer having like a snap down lace lock there so you can really adjust the tension over the forefoot versus the ankle. But it holds okay, just not great. But these laces are thin and light, and I'm concerned about the durability of them. The other thing, though, is that they slide quite a bit, which is one of my biggest annoyances on boots, is the laces coming loose. So one of the fixes that I have for that is that I rub beeswax onto the laces, and that gives a little bit of grip, but it is kind of an annoyance with these boots. So when I first got these boots, I was very, very happy. The fit was great for my wide feet. I wouldn't say that there's like a high volume, like high instep or anything like that. They're kind of middle of the road that way. There just is a little bit more toe room in here than the low is in Las Sportivas that I've used. So really like that. Really like the material, really like the overall look of the boot, and first impressions were that they were comfortable, but wearing them a couple of times, some of the issues I pointed out, like I said, this tongue thing here. So going to get a little more miles on them before I make a decision if they're my boot for the summer. But I will say that I just went out to the recycling bin and got the box back out of the recycling bin just in case they don't work out for me. Hopefully it all adapts to my feet, and the tongue seats in there pretty well. I may do a follow-up video. The negatives aside, walking around them, the weight is great. The comfort is great once you've got everything kind of dialed and whatnot. So really like that about the boot, just a couple of drawbacks. If you have any experience or questions with these boots, feel free to leave it in the comments, and I'll respond to comments as soon as I'm able.